Welcome to Making Waves. This is episode 115. So we want to thank our guest tonight, Mike from Mike's Dead. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Great.
We're good,
How are
man.
you
Well,
doing?
thanks for taking some time with us. We know we were just talking before we started here. This is a big night for you guys. You have the video for your new single "Bite Down" coming out.
Mhm.
What can people expect who may not have seen it or will see it at some point? What can they expect from this video?
Um, it's super chaotic. It's fast-paced. We kind of referenced. You remember the band music video from Prodigy for "Smack My Bitch Up"?
100%.
Kind of
Yep.
referenced that, and like a Tublo video too as well. But we kind of reversed it. Instead of having it being POV, it's like a story cam. So we shot the whole thing with this massive chest rig, and the camera's
Yeah.
kind of jutting out, recording directly on me. And we were running around Fremont Street in Vegas and doing all sorts of shit. Did a bunch of shots in Nashville too. So it's a pretty high-end video, but it's kind of messy and sloppy and chaotic to match the song. So it's one of my favorite we've ever shot, and it's a overall great video.
Who directed the song is great, by the way. Who directed this?
My buddy Zach.
Zach. Okay, cool. I'm excited to see it. I'll be tuning in. What you said, is it 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Pacific?
Pacific.
Now, you
Yeah.
just referenced Prodigy, which brings a question. When listening to your music, there's influences that people could kind of handpick, right?
Mhm.
But sometimes you kind of go, well, how can you narrow this down to maybe a sound that I wonder, hey, what's Mike's Dead? Well, I can't describe it to you, but if you like such and such, would Prodigy be a band you could throw in there to describe kind of your sound?
Honestly, as things have developed, yeah, I'd say when we started, no. But
Mm.
as things have gotten, as things have grown, definitely. I think the main thing for us is like I started in electronic music a long, long time ago when I was like 18, and that still pushes through into the music now. Especially we don't have a bassist; it's all synth bass. It's all different ARPs and types of synths that I program because I'm just a huge synth nerd at the end of the day.
Hmm.
And so definitely there's a kind of a Prodigy sound in there sometimes, depending on the song. Bite Down,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of got that.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up on more like new metal, more in the realm of like Linkin Park and stuff like that. And then my weird experimental side mainly comes from Gorillaz. They like Gorillaz was like a weird band that I always loved. It was so near and dear to my heart, but it was so out of pocket compared to everything else that I listened to because it was either new metal or like New York hip hop, and that was it.
Like Nas? Are we talking like
Like MF
which?
Doom, Gangstar.
Okay. There we go. There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nas is in there, but not as much.
Yeah.
Everybody else.
MF Doom is the shit. So one thing I thought about, not to stampede on you here, Justin, is when you
No,
were
by all
mentioning
means.
the electro side of it. I'm a huge fan of that stuff. So like I heard like, and some of your earlier stuff, I was like, this gives me a Kill Station vibe in a couple of tracks. If you're okay, cool.
I do like the underground scene, and that's kind of more so where I started. Was more in the like heavier 808s, blown out shit like that. But over time, it was like we kind of developed where I kind of started is kind of similar, I guess, that you referenced Skill Station, because he does piano mixed with blown out 808s, and that's kind of how I was fucking around, at least in the beginning. And then it was during COVID that I was like, dude, I have all this time. I'm just gonna learn how to play guitar because I produce everything. So I didn't know at the time, and I was like, dude, I've got so much time, and my guitarist can just come over and teach me what I need to know. And then that's really where the band kind of pivoted, where it's like, oh, okay, we're leaning more into the rock space now because there's guitars going and stuff like that.
So when you tour, excuse me, I haven't seen you live, but I will on the ship. At least the things that we're doing together, like the Stowaway. So I guess this wouldn't really answer the question here, but when you're touring, are you touring? How many, like, multiple people are on stage with you? 3.
Yeah.
Who do you do? Like a drummer?
My drummer and my guitarist. Yeah. They're not necessarily. They are part of Mike's Dead, but they're not Mike's Dead because.
Right.
You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, 100%, man.
Yeah, you gotta have a kick-ass band. I mean, my guys are great. They're both insane at what they do, and
are they based from where you are, or you Washington, DC, right?
I'm originally from DC.
Got it.
I lived in LA for 6 years. I live in Nashville now. They still live in LA. So, it's depending on where we start, it can be kind of a pain in the ass. If we start on the West Coast, it's really easy because I just fly that way. If we start in Nashville, it's a little bit more complicated because you got to think about drums and amps and cabs and all the other shit that comes with it. But
Yeah,
we make it work. It's not hard because they are in both in the same location.
that's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
putting the pieces together when you're doing what you're doing. I don't think a lot of our listeners really understand the back end of the trials and tribulations of just like, oh, you want me to play a show? It's not just as simple as the four of us are living this town. We get in our van and trailer and drive there. Like it's real. It's so when you show up to those gigs, it's dedication. Not
There's
only
so many logistics that go into planning a show properly, especially with like travel and everybody being kind of spread out. And I think I know so many bands that are like that now where it's like, oh yeah, my drummer lives in Columbus or my guitarist lives in Nebraska. People are just kind of spread out post COVID. So it's a bitch to get everyone together, get all the transportation, get all the venue settings correct, everything like that, and then also play the show.
yeah.
I mean, I know
I
I
can find a rehearsal space.
Yeah, the days of all going to high school together and living in a house and until we make it that's long gone. I think the idea that once people hit and their band becomes a brand, then they can tend to kind of live where they want to live, and then they get together when business is to be tended to. Hey, one band I wanted to reference before we get to something, and we don't like to dilute what you do as Mike's Dead, but one band I always hear and when I listen to your stuff is this. Remember this band Orgy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that first album, I was like, man, your delivery, not the rap stuff, but when you kind of veer into the rock space, I was like, man, he sounds like the guy from Orgy. So I just wanted to bring that up before I didn't want to forget mentioning that to you.
I was never like super. I didn't listen to that music when I was younger, but
Mhm.
and I don't know if I'm even allowed to talk about this, but I could give it $2. We were supposed to tour with them, and
Wow, I did that.
we were supposed to be doing a run with them in October. That I think got pushed back to next year. I don't know if it's still happening, but I started kind of getting.
Dude, the fact that they're
That's
still
cool.
together shocks me. I didn't even know they were still existing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was supposed to be like the reunion tour for their big album.
Candy
Okay.
ass.
Yeah, Candy,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
But no, I mean their music's cool. Anything from that industrial wave was really, that's kind of where we pull from. But I also don't pull in the realm of like, oh, we gotta sound like this. And I see so many
Sure,
bands,
no.
see so many bands doing that where they're like, oh, dude, I want to sound like Bring Me the Horizon, or I want to sound like Bad Omens. And I'm like, the difference is, I think with us is that I produce everything and I just don't chase anything. I just make my music. And my music is going to be very me and very unique. Like if you listen to Bite Down, there's so many different elements that are going on in that song that's still very cohesive, but it's not like an ordinary active rock or ordinary metal band. It's like very different, but still hitting the mark, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, I want to talk about some of the themes that kind of weave themselves into your songs and not even some themes, conceptual stuff. When you sing or when you're doing your music, are you taking it from a first person narrative or your third person? Because there is a lot of stuff dealing with mental health, a lot of narcotics, pills, that kind of thing. Is that something you kind of just like things that have been involved in your own life and you're kind of just putting it out there? Or are you kind of trying to create this kind of almost story for people to kind of follow as this kind of like fictional kind of thing?
It's definitely more first person.
Blowing up a spot there, buddy.
Yeah, I know.
Hey,
I'm
let's
just
talk
joking.
about it, man. Music's
Yeah.
about truth. Let's hear
I've
about it.
been sober now for a year. As of like
Good for
3 days
you.
ago.
Congratulations.
Congrats, man.
Yeah.
Not that it was ever like a massive problem, because I have friends that it's really bad, but I definitely have done my fair share of fucking around, and I definitely write from a first person degree. And there's definitely a lot of things that I write that they're a little bit more vague, and they're almost sometimes they're not like as much on the nose, but I know what I'm talking about. Where like I'm kind of slipping things in, being like, oh, people will think that's a cool line. Meanwhile, it means X, Y, Z of this shit that happened to me years ago or whatever. I think that especially in having the hip hop element, there tends to be more often than not in that industry, there's just like fluff. It's just people coming in. I'm gonna talk about my Bugatti that I don't own, or you know what I mean. I think it's much better to stick with things that have actually either occurred to you or that you've experienced, because then you can talk about them more in depth. And for me, mental health has always been a fucking not a walk in the park. It's always been a thing. And so it's easier for me to discuss that and have people resonate with it, because it's like, if I just share my experiences, I'm sure people are going through similar things and can resonate in some manner.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny the way the veil has dropped down on artists being able to talk about the thing. I remember the guy Ren, he put out that song with a video that addressed the Jekyll and Hyde aspect of it. And it's wonderfully entertaining, but at the end of the day, it really is a good little lesson. And maybe, hey, I've been through this, you can pull through this. The better angels are gonna come to the forefront.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, is that what you're hoping for sometimes, or just like, do you put it out there and say, hey, if you dig what I'm doing and you're going through sobriety, or you're knee deep in your pills and you love them, have at it?
I honestly just do my own thing, and if you resonate with it, then that's on you. But obviously that's what I hope for. But at the same time, my music is I write my music for me. I'm like, as much as I sit there being like, oh, this chorus has got to be catchy or something like that, I'm definitely not sitting there being like, if I write this line, more people will stream the song. It's not like that. It's more of, I'm gonna write my music and hopefully everyone thinks it's cool. And luckily a fair amount of people do. And that's kind of always been my prerogative. It's like, art is going to be art, and I'm going to treat it that way. I really hate to see sometimes, like, I've done sessions, especially living in Nashville. You get into these sessions, like the producers or writers, and they're like really just only focusing on the money aspect of it, of trying to make the biggest hit and I totally get it. But that's not how I work. That's not how I look at, like, people that I idolize, like Trent Reznor, like early fucking nails, where they just didn't really give a shit. They just made their art, and it was like, Trent made his art, I guess, and it was very just raw and real. And that's more my prerogative. It's like, I don't even really have an intention. When I sit down and make something new, I'm like, all right, let's just see where this fucking goes. And then I usually get some type of melody after I've been producing a song for a few hours. And then I'm like, all right, cool. And then kind of fill in lyrics and just keep going.
So is that how you start? Do you start? Let me ask you this: growing up in Washington, D.C., I assume that you started producing your own music before you went to LA, right?
No, actually, I moved to LA to go to a production school. So I have a degree in audio engineering and music production.
Oh, interesting.
I'm actually in the school right now. Luckily I still have access to some of the studios here. So I went to the University of Maryland for 2 years. I was chronically fucking depressed, studying a business degree, and hated it because college and I did not click. I was a very smart kid, but I didn't click with me. And my buddy at the time, who I was living with, found the school, was like, dude, I'm gonna go learn how to produce. And I was like, same, I'm sick of this shit. So I moved here when I was 20, and it was like a year-long program. Got my background and everything. I mean, they can only teach you so much. A lot of it is just trial and error. I've been producing for fucking 8 years now. So a lot of it is just trial and error. I've made thousands of songs, whether it just be beats I used to produce for like hip hop kids. I used to produce for pop artists. I used to make a shit ton of like EDM, because that was more so where I started, and really honing everything into like exactly what you want to do takes so long. It takes years and it's worth it, but it's just a grueling process.
Absolutely. Trial and error is where it's at, I guess. Coming back, if you don't mind, and I'm sorry to if I'm jumping over here, Justin, but when you grew up fully, you were planted until you were 18 or so, or 20 in Washington, D.C., and then LA is when you started your musical journey?
I mean, it started when I was like 18 I was like Northern Virginia, is kind of where I was from. It started with me wanting to DJ. And before like EDM became this massive thing, it was like, yo, I've got good taste for music. All I do is listen to music non-fucking stop. And I started like putting some things together and learning, and like I downloaded like FL Studio, like the oldest, shittiest demo version of it, making the worst beats you've ever fucking heard in your life. I still have old laptop. I still have them. So whenever I start getting down on myself, I can go like listen to them and be like, Jesus, okay, we're making strides. But
Little
yeah,
beacons, backwards
oh,
beacons.
dude, they're the worst. It's like computer bleep loops. It's the stupidest music you've ever heard. But that's kind of where it started, and I didn't really have an option. I started DJing when I was 18. I remember I like was down playing like Miami Music Week, which is like it's like when Ultra is going on, and I'm doing all these after parties, and I'm like 18, getting X's on the hands because I couldn't drink, and was starting when I went to college. I started DJing a few shows a week in DC because I went to University of Maryland. It's right there. It's like 10 minutes. So my buddy and I were DJing together and just honestly moving kind of quickly in the space. And then that's when we were like, dude, we got to learn how to produce. We have no idea what we're doing. And that's when we came out here. And that's obviously where it started, where I started pursuing it professionally.
It's kind of a,
you two still close?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's funny, huge full circle moment. He's now my.
There you go. I was like, I gotta know. I gotta know. Two people here. What's
great? Love
yeah.
that. Yeah, we used to DJ together for years, and then we both were like, "Yo, I want to make this type of music. I want to make this type of music." Did our own thing, and then years later, just fucking years later, I had cycled through like I think one or two drummers, and I was like, "Dude, why?" I caught up with Pat, and he's like, "Dude, let's just do this." I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." So now it's great because even my guitarist I went to school with, he was in my class when I went to this school. And so I've known him for 8 years. I've known Pat for 10 years. And it's very apparent when we play live. There's none of that like awkward, we're in a band thing. It's just three idiots on stage having the time of their life.
Yeah.
And it translates really well as far as like crowd chemistry because it's like, yo, these guys are just all best friends.
Yeah. That's cool.
Did when you made the adjustment from business undergrad at College Park to going to audio school in LA, were your parents supportive of this? Or were they kind of like that? What are you doing? They hated it.
Yeah, they hated it.
That's not the safe route.
Sorry.
I feel like most parents are usually aligned with do the safe route.
Sure.
My parents were in business, and they were just kind of like, "Yo, this is what you do. You finish high school, you go to college, you get a job, like the very traditional route."
Sure.
You know, I was like, dude, I'm gonna drop out and go to this fucking school, and they were like, good luck. I mean, I respect my parents for doing that because they were like, yeah, go for it. Good luck.
No, I was gonna say, what are the conversations like today?
Oh,
I'm
now
so
it's
glad you did that, son.
They're
Well done.
so supportive. They're so supportive.
That's awesome.
Because now it's like there was a few years, obviously, where it was, I was either producing for people. I mean, dude, I used to live in a 2-bedroom apartment with 5 dudes. There was times where I was sleeping in living rooms. I was like basically homeless. Like there was years of what the fuck are you doing? And my parents being like, we warned you, like this is what you wanted to do. And it took a long time, obviously, to start making full income and then be able to do music full time, which was beautiful. And even a few years after that, before my parents were like, all right, I think we get it. You kind of know what you're doing. And now they come to shows, they get super excited whenever I'm like, hey, we've got a tour coming up. They're like, oh my God, are you playing here? Yeah.
Hey, you mentioned Northern Virginia. Whereabouts in Northern Virginia are you from?
I was born in Alexandria Hospital in like Alexandria, basically. And then I grew up in Fairfax, and we kind of bounced around a little bit. Like,
dude, I grew up in Fairfax. I grew up in Vienna.
Oh yeah. We used to play.
Yeah, my brother went to Oakton High. I think we left when I was at Marshall Road Elementary there in Vienna.
Yeah, we used to play Vienna in football. Always.
That's awesome, dude.
That's fucking nuts.
I haven't been
dude,
back.
I was recently in Tyson's Corner, dude, and I got all teary-eyed.
Dude, I haven't been there in forever. We played on the last headline run we did. We played in DC, which was fucking so strange for me because both my parents, after my sister and I like finished high school, they were like, "Yo, you can stay here." So my dad lives in Chicago. My mom lives in Austin. And so I haven't gone back to Virginia in years. And
wow,
but it's so weird. We were driving the van, and we're like, "Dude, I know all these streets. Like, I know where we are. This is weird."
Where'd you play? What venue? You don't mind me asking.
Dude, we played. This was the coolest yet most strange show. There was very limited good venues in DC, and like there's some cities like that. Like Nashville is another perfect example. There's like, especially if you're playing like smaller rooms, there's not a lot of options. There's usually like one fucking option, and
It's like
always
9:30, and then
booked.
everything else is garbage, other than maybe the
Yeah,
black cat
exactly.
if it's still around.
Exactly. It's like there's one or two options, and most of those options are booked fucking 6 months in advance.
Right.
So we were like, dude, I am so down to do something weird. We played in the back of you know, Comet Ping Pong.
Yeah.
Yeah, back of a pizza shop, dude.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking punk kid by heart. So the second I heard like, yo, we can play in the back of a pizza shop, I was like, yes.
The infamous Comet Pizza.
Yeah, I was gonna say
the stage riser is like that. Yeah, the stage riser is like this big. It's like 4 inches. There's like very little difference from you in the crowd, and I'm like, that's fine. I will be screaming in your fucking face, like just right here.
It's like It's like Blink 182 playing at the Denny's.
Yeah, it's like that's the traditional meme of like, what the fuck is up, Denny's? It's just a hardcore band.
Awesome.
Oh, no, that's not the one. What's the one that Pizzagate stemmed from? What's the fucking pizza
Comet.
shop?
That's the one.
It is Comet, right?
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's what I was like. Oh, dude, you filmed it? You gotta film it, dude. Put a Pizzagate.
In the fucking contract.
What was the basement like?
We're not allowed to talk about it.
Oh,
no,
really?
In the contract, we were not allowed to mention it.
Pizzagate.
Wow.
Like,
In your promo, in your marketing.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
because I think
shit.
someone shot
Lawsuits.
up the fucking someone shot up the fucking pizza shop like when all that crazy shit was going down.
Yeah.
And they were convinced they were hiding people in the fucking place.
In the basement.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so now it's like, now they're like, yo, we still exist. We're still a pizza shop, but also you cannot mention this shit because it's so sensitive, I guess.
Can you say something like, hey, try the pepperoni, but not the sausage?
Boom, doom. I wish I had a soundboard for this shit. That's awesome. So you were so that tour happened right before the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, keep going. I want to hear more about everything.
No, you go.
No, and I was going to ask. So you guys did this. Tell me if I'm wrong here. It was your headliner was like a May-June run, and then after that, Ice Nine Kills with a Plot and You, and that's all set it off. I've toured with all of those bands, so I was like, damn, that's a fucking stacked tour too. That had been fucking dope.
Oh, dude, it was a fucking great lineup, and honestly, all the bands were sick. We did, it was with Ice Nine, and then we did like a bunch of fill-in dates to set it off to like. So we did. I think it was like 7 or 8 shows with Ice Nine, and then like 7 or 8 shows with Set It Off.
And Set It Off, you were both on the Ice Nine dates?
Ice Nine was following it's like, you know how like the trickle down headline run? It's like
Metallica.
Yeah, so they're doing dates with Metallica and then made a headline around that, and then Set It Off like a headline around Ice Nine. And we were just sitting there going, hi, we'd like to play some shows. So
Yeah. Did the Plot and You do that tour with you guys too?
They only did the Ice Nine shows, and they split the support on it because the first 3 were Veil of Maya and August Burns Red.
Oh,
so there was only like 4 shows to plot on, but Landon is the homie. He's a homie of mine.
Good guy,
great dude, and wickedly talented. So it was great playing shows with them.
Yeah,
but every band that we played with was sick. The only band I didn't even like get really a chance to talk to is ABR, and that was it. So we only did 3 shows with them.
I imagine the Ice Nine's Kills audience probably took to you because your music has a lot of confrontation in it, which is something that their audience is all about. How did that go? How do you seek? Do you just kind of play and we're going to find our audience? They're going to find us. They're going to be attracted. Or are there times you're like, man, we've got to seek these people out? I don't know how you even go about that. Or you just keep it organic and say, hey, we're playing. If you dig us, buy our T-shirt. I think is there a strategy?
I think that there's 2. I mean, obviously there's a strategy, but a lot of bands nowadays are constantly just pandering for their like, look at us, please look it up. And I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. I refuse to do that. As much as like obviously you got to make content nowadays. Things have changed, but at the same time, you got to have some like self-worth and self-respect of what you're doing is cool. So I would rather sit there and be like, yo, we're just gonna keep doing our thing and hopefully you see us. That's kind of that's been the prerogative. And then you know, bands come along that we have relationships with or management has relationships with, and they're like, yo, we fuck with what you're doing. We're gonna put you on this run.
Yeah.
Cool. That's kind of
Yeah.
that's been the prerogative now. I mean, obviously, touring with Ice Nine makes sense. Touring with like Motionless makes sense. Or in this moment, a lot of these like metalcore bands that have this crossover, we will do really well with. But I'm sure that there will be a day when we try to tour with like Five Finger Death Punch because our music is confrontational and that makes sense because of their fan base.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that, kind of going your own way, because it harkens back to what you're saying when you're like with these producers, and they're like, hey, we've got to get this certain sound because it's about the money. And that's a good thing though about being like yourself, where you're kind of the self-contained unit. I'm like, I can produce my own stuff. I know how to run audio. I can do this on my own. I don't really need you. I'm here because I'm trying to develop my sound, expand it, maybe get some other ears on it. But yeah, at that time you can pull back and say, I got this myself.
That's what's been wildly beneficial. And I think that obviously what separates us is, I don't know, like I just do everything. I mean, dude, I design the ad mats for our shows. I do all the graphic design. I do half of the merch designs. I, write, sing, produce, rap, screen. I do all I just gotten to the point where it's become all encompassing. And don't get me wrong, it's stressful, but at the same time, the art and the output is obviously always going to be different than the industry standard. And that I'm so sick and tired of hearing the same goddamn song every other day, because that's just one cool band like Sleep Token or Bad Omens or Bring Me the Horizon. They're crushing it in their own spaces and they're fucking forward thinking and they're awesome. And then all the other bands beneath them are going, I want to do that. And just replicate.
It's been that way.
Yeah, just replicating the same goddamn thing over and over and over. And then sitting there being like, why aren't we getting bigger? And I'm like, you're not bringing anything to the table. I mean, I respect a lot of these bands, but at the same time, I just tend to see that, especially now with like TikTok being a thing and people chasing things. It's just very redundant.
It's funny you talked about designing your own stuff and getting involved in merch and obviously your own recording and stuff like that. I was like, the truth of the matter is the industry kind of scratches their head. Why is it happening? I'm like, well, you drove everyone to do that.
Yeah.
You took away their idea. You took away the abilities to monetize themselves in certain manners. You basically put people in graphic design issues that they don't follow your vision. And you're like, you're never going to capture what I want. So I'm going to have to fucking do it myself.
Yeah, it's like kind of asinine. The bigger that you get, the more you start to see how the industry works, and then you're like, this makes no fucking sense. Like no one knows what they're doing, and then you kind of just sit there and be like, I'm just gonna do it myself. And which is why I see there's so many artists. Like, I mean, I was a tried and true independent for the first 4 years of Mike's Dead, and
I was going to ask you about this.
Rejecting labels, telling people to go fuck themselves, being like, absolutely not, because it was just more of this control thing of being told, hey, you got to sound like this, or we need this, or we need that. And now it's been really good with, we signed with Hopeless maybe 6 months ago. And it's been really great with them because they really respect my direction. And that was what won me over. Was Tobin, my A&R, was just more like, hey, you've already really created something. I just want to amplify it. And I'm going to let you kind of do your thing and, provide notes and feedback, but I'm not going to sit there and tell you it's got to sound like this. It's got to be like this. They kind of just let me steer the boat, which is great.
Yeah. It's interesting
too,
out this
because EP though, right? Like this EP that's coming out this month.
Conglomerate body of work with them. And then we'll do another one. And I believe we'll probably do the debut album with them.
Sweet. That's the way.
And I've reproduced my debut album 4 times now.
Dude, I was gonna say, like, you've dropped a lot of singles and a lot of EPs and stuff like that, and you're kind of like, well, okay, with all this going on, there's no like full album out there, which is kind of
honestly what killed it was COVID. There was the original album was a bit more. I didn't know how to play guitar. The first one was like the supposedly first album was a bit more like heavy 808s, a lot of singing, but more piano and stuff like that. Still the singing and rapping, still the same with that. And then I think it was leaning a little bit too soft at the time because that music seemed to be resonating with people really well. And so I was like, all right, okay, I got to make this all harder. It's the first, the second draft of it was then, all right, this is cool, but it's not really cutting through. Like that single I put out, Puppets, was supposedly supposed to be one of like the first singles of that album.
Oh, no shit. Okay.
You see what I'm saying? It's like everything gets pushed down because I keep writing so much music that inevitably it's just like, hey, yeah, maybe we put this out as a single, or maybe we put this out on an EP. But then it's just everything's just getting backlogged. I mean,
Why
being
don't
pliable
you
like that is
yeah.
important too.
Yeah.
And like not only the industry, but you know, they're going to lean on your skills. They're going to lean in on what you have to offer as an artist. You're producing your art direction, all of that stuff. But if you're cool using it for, you know, and going in all with all your cards, you're going to be able to make quicker turns than anybody else is. And that's going to find you to be, you know, on top of the pile when it comes down to opportunities and choices and everything like that. Touring, from release dates, all that shit, you know. So
especially with touring, that's something we're seeing now. We play so many sides of the field where it's like, if you want to put us out with more of a, I don't know, more of a singing band, it's like, cool, we'll just not do any of the scary screamo fucking just intense shit. We've got plenty of singing-esque music. And then it's like, put us out with fucking Alpha Wolf or Knock Loose, cool, I will start ripping out the unreleased shit that's just heavy as hell, and just to match the intensity of the bill. So it's been cool. It's definitely, all the work falls on me at the end of the day, which is tough. Because
I'm going to offer some unsolicited advice. When you put out that first album, collect all the singles you've done, and you call your first album Greatest Hits.
Yeah, there you go. Boom.
easy money grab.
Put one new track on it, you're done.
There you go. That's deluxe edition. That's the deluxe edition.
Yeah, we've talked about, I didn't realize, especially like, it's coming from more of a hip hop background. Like you said, I put out a lot of singles. That's more of a hip hop thing. I'm not really as familiar with like B-sides. I think that's more active. You see that more in rock, of like the B-side type of thing. And so my manager has always been like, dude, like, you know, if some of these singles don't make it, we can always put them out as on the B-side, or like have, you know, other things we can add into making a deluxe record or something like that. Because I write a ton of music, and I try not to save any bad songs. It's just more of, they have to match the intensity and the quality. Like Bite Down is now, every song we put out is the new standard. And so you got to match, and Bite Down is just fucking doing its thing. So got to match that.
Speaking
it's
of
funny because
intensity, I'm sorry, go ahead, Justin.
No, I think your point needs to come out.
No, I'm gonna lean in on the EP. It's gonna be a deep cut situation.
Right. I was gonna say, it's like you're reverse engineering the new paradigm in the business. It was like people used to put out the albums, and now it's gone to EPs. Now it's like a single of the month club for bands, because they realize the benefit of putting out full lengths is super hard, because the way we consume music now is, what do you got for me now? What do you got for me now? So the funny thing is, you drop all these singles and EPs, you're kind of working your way up. Now you get the full length album. I'm like, my God, he just basically put the paradigm on its head.
Yeah.
So I've released 2 albums worth of music at the end of the day, but they're not, you know, album
sequence is an album.
Exactly. Nor are they album type of songs. They're very specific types of songs. Like, there's one song on this EP that we have called Creep that I could put it out as a single. I wouldn't necessarily, because it's a very strange song. The entire song is in triplets. Like, the entire fucking song, down to all the production of the drumming, other than the singing. It's all in triplets. And live, it's fucking awesome. It's a great song to play live. It's a bit more like eerie and industrial, more Rammstein simplistic on the riff for the main chorus. But I like projects because you can put music out like that, and it can be consumed correctly in the correct order, and be like, oh, that was that weird, unique, niche song on that record. And then you kind of come back to those weird songs, which I'm excited about. Obviously doing a full length, because it's like, cool, I can fuck around a little bit more. You get like the 3 or 4 main singles, and then you kind of just have at it.
Yeah. And then you get to paint the outliner. You get to paint, use all of your colors available.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you ever think that sometimes you take the songs, you don't feel it cut the mustard, but you kind of want people to hear? Do you ever think, maybe I could just put this under a pseudonym, like Mike's Alive?
Mike's Alive is the one I hear the most. Or Miguel Del Muerto.
Chris Gaines 2.0.
No, I mean, I definitely, I've been playing with that idea lately just because I make so much music, of doing other projects just in general.
Yeah.
Like, when I started, I thought like, oh, I can make all these types of music. It's like not at the end of the day. There has to be a sonic branding of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've played with the idea of it, but I think I'm so busy with the main project now. It's kind of like I gotta stay focused.
All right. The name itself, Mike's Dead. Is
Yeah.
it some sort of in joke? Did he grow up with that thing? Was it something you and your friends kicked around when you were younger?
It's the only question that I still to this day don't answer in every interview I've ever done. But it's the
Give me
only.
the worst. Give me the worst best answer you got for that question.
No, I'd never answer it because it's like
Damn it.
there's a big meaning behind it, but I'm waiting to explain that.
Tell you what, we're gonna have a contest on ShipRocked. Every cabin's gonna write on a piece of paper how he thinks he got that name, and at the end of the cruise, we're gonna figure out the best answer for that and announce it on stage.
That's genius.
That's fun. I'm excited for ShipRocked. I think
Well, let's
Have you
talk
been on
about
a
let's talk
cruise?
about it,
Yeah,
man. Yeah.
Have you ever been on a ship?
I've done cruises before, but not metal cruises. So no.
Have you performed then?
No.
Oh, sick. So this is the first time that
ShipRocked
you're
is
going to
it's
be.
very new. Yeah, it's very new to me. And then
Yeah.
I remember when we were speaking with Al, the bill was already kind of drawn up, or at least from the
Yep.
band perspective. He was like, we don't have any more room, but we can do stowaways. And I was like, I'm
Yeah.
interested to see how that's going to go.
It's going to be awesome. Al and I do that together. We with Andy, the band leader, and we put together the bill, and it's going to be great. We'll touch base on that at another time. But I wanted to at least give you a warm welcome in the way that like this is going to change a lot in the way that you tour, and your online fan base will subsequently change a little bit too, because they become just like you have like your loyal fans as they are. These become baked in even deeper than that loyal fans, and they're like, if you if you drink the gravy with the mashed potatoes, these people will stay true and loyal to you for a long time. They're the greatest fucking people ever that come on this boat, and it's a fucking rager, and it's the longest one we've done yet. And I'm fucking stoked to have you, man. I just hope you said you don't drink, right?
No, not currently.
Well, hopefully it stays that way. Otherwise, you might have a bloody
No, man,
butthole.
there's plenty. Yeah, right. No, it's interesting too, Mike, is that even though it wasn't like, I guess as Al said, we basically had booked the bill. You coming on as a stowaway gives people kind of an intro into who you are, doing something that ends up being the most popular shows on the cruise, just from an attendance perspective. So right there at that point, it's kind of a no risk venture for you. Like, hey, I'm doing someone else's songs in my own way, so I'm going to see how these people react to me as a performer.
Oh no, I'm
So,
I
yeah.
love the concept of it, and I remember that I talked to Al about potentially doing like curating a Mike's Dead industrial metal night as
Yeah.
well. One of the other nights.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
dude, if I'm gonna be on the ship, give me shit to do. Like I'm like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just do a few songs. I want to get active with these people.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
You know,
Idle hands.
idle hands. Yeah, dude, I'm a fucking workhorse. So
Right.
no, I'm excited. I think it'll be great, and I think it'll be fun to potentially bring back that industrial metal night like year after year, if it does well. To just give people another thing to do.
All right, we have a few more things we want to wrap up with you before we let you go. So you drop in the video tonight, the EP Bite Down. What's your next? And you're obviously going to be with us in February. What's your plans within that 6 month span between now, then, and then maybe after March?
We've got this whole week is just fucking announcements and drops. They're calling it February. Because we announced the EP on Sunday. We've got a music video today. We've got a festival announced tomorrow. We've got two show announcements on Thursday. Tickets go on sale Friday, and then it's just fucking, it keeps going.
Okay.
December, the EP comes out. So, or actually November 30th, but end of the month, the EP comes out. We are doing 2 EP release shows to celebrate the EP.
Sweet.
I don't know when this podcast comes out, so I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about.
Next Monday.
So yeah, if you got stuff, yeah.
We're doing shows in Louisville and Columbus just to celebrate nearby close shows in mid-December, and then obviously to support the project, everything kind of shuts down for a little bit, so it'll still be focused on kind of marketing the project and finishing a few singles for EP2. And then I know we have ShipRocked in February. We'll probably launch the first single of EP2 around there. And then we've got a bunch of potential tour stuff. Nothing that's like locked, but we confirmed a few festivals this morning. And now you kind of like, you get those as like the pillars, and then you kind of figure out the routing and who's going and everything like that there. So it should be a very heavy year next, like all 2024 should be very heavy.
Well, you mentioned Columbus and Louisville. Obviously, a lot of us know what those two places are in the world of festivals, so we can only assume.
Only assume.
Only assume.
Both of those festivals are presenting the shows.
Okay.
Which would be cool. So
Yeah.
for example, like Sonic Temple presents, Mike's Dead
Mhm.
on the show. So those are in December, and then obviously we'll
Yep.
follow that up correctly later.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I got a quick question before we move on to our last little fun bit. I think that's where Josen was going. Before I
Yes.
forget, I love features. I love this world that we're now living in, where it's not unheard of for musicians to dive into other bands, albums the way that they are, musicians and artists to do things, one-off songs, whatever it is. I was checking it out and I'm like, damn, dude, Egypt Central, I don't know where that came from, but I'm like, those, I grew up with, like my old touring band used to go out to Memphis and fucking crush it with them. I'm still friends with those guys. I did the Call Me Charisma's music video, so I was like, damn, he did a song with them. I work for the management company that does Ash Costello, so I'm like, damn, this guy's all over the place. And then I just saw that is Frankie on your EP?
Yeah.
That's dope. Do you know Frankie?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know him personally. I know Sean, his manager, and Clay, my manager, is really close with Sean. So that's how.
Oh yeah.
That's how. Yeah. Well, that's how the whole Amir collab kind of existed, where it was like, yo, we've got this song, and we want to. It does have room for someone, but it's got to be fitting. And then we gave it to Sean. Sean's like, dude, Frankie didn't rip this.
That's dope. I've known that dude for so long. So I was just like, holy shit. It's very cool to see, for me personally, to be like, oh shit, his DNA is everywhere. But on top of that, your DNA is everywhere. And that's very fucking rad. Because Call Me Charisma is a completely different thing than Egypt Central. And Egypt Central is a completely different thing than Amir. And you might be able to put a New Year's Day in somewhere in there, but I still feel like they are different than the rest of them. So it's just like, damn, dude, he's got it going on, man.
It really depends on what the track warrants, like vocally, because I can do a lot of things. Or if we want someone specific, where like with Neverland, that song that we have with Ashley, same thing, where it's like, dude, a female vocalist and that sounds sick. Cool, that's fine. Ash is great to work with, and we've done the song live like a few times.
Oh, it's dope.
So yeah, I mean, I'm very big. I think that like I said, coming from the hip hop culture, that is where you see it a lot more. Like I would love having constant features or doing features for other people, because it's this weird like collaboration thing that kind of creates the best music. So there's definitely a lot of songs that I still have in the tank that are waiting to find the right features. Like as you grow, of being like, all right, dude, I want to put something big on this. And then it just becomes more political and tough to navigate at that point.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It does.
Awesome.
But that's the fun part about it.
Oh yeah.
So
anyways, I just wanted to make a mention.
Oh, yeah.
Mike, we have this little thing we call Walk the Plank, which basically we ask you a question. Doesn't have to be music related, anything, just kind of this random question, and we just allow you to answer and however you feel fit. So Chad, do you have a question for Mike?
Yeah, I do. It's called well, the question is what is your favorite word to say out loud?
I feel like I say fuck every other word, so I feel like it's got to be that. I don't have. There's nothing that comes to the top of my mind.
Fuck is great.
Fuck is a great word. I love using it.
I agree. I'm right. I'm right. Taking notes of this. All right.
All right. My question. No, listen. It basically covers your noun, your adjective, your action verb, it's everything. It's everything.
Covers everything.
It's good, and you can. So my question is this: other than your own songs, is there one song you wish you would have written?
That's an interesting question.
If there's one song in the world you've heard, and you wish you could have wrote it, what would it be?
Damn, I've never been asked that question. That's actually a genuinely tough question.
Because it's not your favorite song; it's a song you wish you'd written.
No, I know, and I'm trying to think now from the production standpoint of, like, I'm trying to think of like something from the early Nails discography. Because I'm like, from a producer standpoint, that's like peak Trent, and it's like, oh, dude, like I am such a nerd at the end of the day when it comes to production stuff. So I don't know. I don't want to like say anything too basic, like, but from a songwriting perspective, it's like, oh, you could take Hurt from John Cash. Like, that's a song. The lyrics are so fucking brutal and raw. I don't have a specific answer, honestly. That's
a great song because it's a massive song. It's got a canvas to it. It's ethereal. It's dark. It's macabre. It's everything. It's like it's like watching an epic movie in furl, right? So
have you seen the documentary that like Trent goes in and breaks down how they did the production?
What is that? What is that song called? Oh, is it the song? God, is it on Netflix where they break it down?
Yeah, it's insane. Like, you took the tuning
Song Exploder
sound.
That's it. Song Exploder.
The tuning sound of the studio and like worked that into the actual sound or the song so that it was in there and created this like eerie, kind of strange, empty vibe in the song. I like shit like that. To me is like, whoa, this is cool. It's different.
Yeah, it's a very desolate track. I believe we have one from our guest last week. Chad, you want to tell him about that?
So the trick here is we get to ask a question. We get to ask our guests from the previous week when they're on to ask a question to next week's guest without them knowing who that guest is. So you'll get to do the same. So I'll tell you who it is after you answer the question. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So the question is, if you could take back one moment of your life, what would it be?
Take back? As in like
erase it.
Like you regret it?
Yeah.
I have things that I can't share. Like, there's definitely things that I can't publicly share.
Maybe that's why he asked the question.
Yeah, change the name. Then it never happened.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just got that.
I definitely think that there was moments early on in the career. How about this? There was moments early on in when Mike's Dead was like kind of really exploding onto the scene that I didn't necessarily understand, like Internet 101. So I think that I mean there was periods of time where I was like trying to be so active with fans and like, trying to respond to everybody and you know, like everyone's fucking comment and shit, because no one tells you how to navigate the internet, but it creates this weird dynamic over time where it's not like you develop friendships, but to certain people it can be taken that way. And there was a situation where I had one fan that like spiraled out of control, that became like restraining order level, and it was like, oh, okay,
right.
This is wild. So I maybe like the level of like trying to be active with people, but you're excited and you are trying to like show support to the people that support you. It's a very weird world of like navigating of like, hey, you gotta remain mysterious but also still interact with people.
Yeah, it's a teachable moment.
It's a very strange, like it's all a learning experience, because it's like you don't really know what you're doing, especially no one does on the fucking internet now. Everyone's just kind of aimlessly doing and posting things and being like, oh, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm sure 10 years from now we're gonna look back on TikTok and be like, what was that? Like, we were just posting these videos and no one said
that was a teaching moment, is what it'd be. 10-year teaching moment. That's what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. Yeah.
So that was a question from Chris Motionless, which I thought was like a great pairing.
I literally just saw Chris a few weeks ago.
Oh, cool. Yeah. He played here in Detroit where I'm at on the night that we did this podcast. So it's a couple back-to-back special nights for, at least for me. He got a music video coming out and I'm stoked on that. And he played here. So now you get to ask next week's guest, who you cannot know who it is, a question.
Right.
Any question.
like 10 seconds. I'll spur it off Chris's question. What's the pinnacle goal that you're like? Let me find the way I want to say this. What's like your main pinnacle goal that you could reach as an artist? Phrase that however you want it, because I know that sounds idiotic, but
Yeah.
like I think, for example, there was this comedian that I saw the other day. He posted a video of like him walking his dad in New York, and he was talking to his dad about how like his pinnacle goal was to like play Madison Square Garden. And that's, I feel like, a really common one. Like I know that's one of my goals, but inevitably, but everyone has something different where some people are like, oh, if I headline Download Fest, or if I, do this very specific thing. I remember I watched that Parkway Drive documentary, and when they were headlining Walk-In, it was like that was their pinnacle. That was like the holy fuck, how did we get here? This is the biggest thing we've ever planned or ever done. And it's interesting and cool to see everyone's answer, I guess, to that.
Yeah. I just so you know, I typed it out, and tell me if this is okay. What goal of yours would you consider to be the pinnacle?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to hear this. Thanks, man.
Well, listen, Mike, man.
Tonight.
Yeah, dude, you have a big night coming up. We're gonna let you go after this, man. But thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. Guys, Mike's gonna be part of ShipRocked 2024 coming up. It's sold out, but you can still get on the waiting list. So anyway, we're gonna be doing that in February. We're really stoked to have him. It's his first time on with us, so it certainly won't be his last. So we appreciate the time, Mike. Good luck with everything. Have a great video release party.
Appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys having me on. I'll see you guys.
Brother. Yes, sir. Take care,
man.
Thanks, man.
Stay safe.
See you guys.